Good evening. My name is DRYAN, and I'm a student at Liberty University in the Comms 542 class. And this evening I'm going to be talking to you about the importance of voting and why you need to vote. So why should you vote? Well, a lot of folks probably think that their vote doesn't matter, but I'm actually here to tell you that your vote does matter, and everybody needs to vote because your vote does matter. I'm going to present some information on why it's important to vote, as well as some information on some close races in U.S. history where just a small number of votes could have actually changed an election. But first, why should you listen to me? Well, I registered to vote shortly, as soon as I turned 18, and I voted in my first election in 1990, after I was legally allowed to do so. Since that time, I voted in every single federal election, either in person or through absentee ballots. Now, as a member of the military, most of the times that I have voted has been through those absentee ballots. I fill out the paperwork, I request the ballots, they send them to me, and I fill them out, I send them back in because I want my voice to be heard, even if I'm stationed, in a faraway country on the other side of the world. I have often gone back to my home state of Oklahoma and actually voted in person, and I really enjoy that. I'm from a very rural area, and my polling place back home is actually my neighbor's farmhouse. And on election day, she would put the flag in the yard, the ballot box would be in her living room, and we would go in on our kitchen table and fill out our ballots, and of course put them in the ballot box and know that we had done our civic duty as voting. So I really enjoyed that. But the purpose of today's speech is to actually convince you to get out and vote. And by the end of my presentation, I hope you're going to understand how important it is to vote and let your voice be heard. And if you're not registered to vote, I hope my presentation will actually encourage you to do so. Okay. So just a quick overview again of what we're going to talk about today. Just over half of those eligible to vote in the United States actually do so. That means, just over half of the population is letting their voice be heard. Now this is a problem because a relatively small percentage of people are electing leaders to make the decisions for the majority of Americans. This is not good. We need to do something better. So what's the solution? Well, the solution is pretty simple. Everyone needs to vote and let their voice be heard. Voting's a right. That's something that's not enjoyed by everybody in this world. And as Americans, it's important that we exercise that right. And then just a few minutes into the speech, I'm going to show you how one vote or a small number of votes could have actually changed an election. And we'll talk about that for a little bit. Okay? So first, let's concentrate on the need. Well, like we talked about, just over half of those eligible to vote in the U.S. actually do so. During the 2016 presidential election, around 138 million people voted. That's only 58.1% of those eligible to vote in the United States. Those are pretty low numbers. Let's look at some other countries for comparison. In Belgium, 87.21% of eligible voters vote. In Australia, 78.96% vote. In France, 67.93%. The U.S. are 58.1%. We're down there with Estonia and Luxembourg. We can do better. Something else that I uncovered during the research for this presentation is that the number of those ages 18 to 29 who vote in the elections has been on the decline since 1980. Now this is very disheartening because these are the young people. These are the folks that have the most to gain or to lose through electing the right leaders for government positions. Now, something else I learned during the research for this presentation is the number of voters with some college but not yet a college degree, maybe students at Liberty University. This number has also been on the decrease since the 2008 presidential election. Again, this is disheartening because these are the group of people that have the most to gain or to lose. So what's the solution? Like I told you, the solution is actually very, very easy. Everyone who's eligible to vote just needs to vote. Several states have early voting. You can do the absentee ballots. It's important that you get out there and let your voice be heard through voting. Take the day off work, get up early, go stand in line, stop by, get a cup of coffee, and do what's required of you as a responsible American citizen. Just remember, voting is a right. Not everyone in the world gets that right, and we should do that. Voting is an act to help preserve the republic. A lot of folks think we live in a democracy in the United States, but that's not true. It's a republic. We elect our leaders to go make decisions for us. And that's why it's important for us to vote. And of course, voting can help steer the government in the direction that we want it to go. Okay? So I want you to visualize a couple of things. Let's talk about some examples in history where just a few votes could have made a difference. One of the most popular one, of course, the 2000 presidential election. George W. Bush defeated Al Gore by just 537 votes in the state of Florida. Now, something to think about. How would Al Gore have handled the 9/11 terrorist attacks or Saddam Hussein? That's something to think about for sure. Another presidential election, maybe not as popular, the 1960 presidential election. John F. Kennedy defeated Richard Nixon by 115 votes in the state of Hawaii. Right? So maybe that could have changed the outcome of that election. Nixon would have been elected. Kennedy would have never been president, never been assassinated. Lyndon Johnson never would have become president. Lots of the civil rights legislation may never have happened. Nixon, therefore, would not have been elected president later, and we could have avoided the whole Watergate scandal. So there's definitely something there to think about as well. In the 2008 Minnesota Senate race, comedian Al Franken defeated incumbent Senator Norm Coleman by just 312 votes. That was also a very close race where, 312 votes could have made a difference. And even most recently, something to think about, in the 2016 presidential race, a total of 170,000 votes across 3 states, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, changed the outcome of the election. That's right, 170,000 votes changed the outcome of the election. Had those votes been different, the Electoral College would have went in a different direction, and Hillary Clinton would be president today and not Donald Trump. So, what have we talked about today? Well, we talked about you making a difference by getting out there to vote. You can do your civic duty. It's important, and it's something that you should do. I've told you how few Americans vote, why you need to vote, and how your vote really can make a difference. And I hope I've stressed those very important points to you, because you can make a difference. We went over the scenarios where just a few votes made a difference, and I think you can see my point. So what I would like to do is challenge you. That's right. I want to challenge you to vote in the next election, especially next year's presidential election. If you've never voted before, I want you to vote. If you've never registered to vote, I want you to register to vote. That's right. Contact your local election board, fill out the paperwork, do everything that you need to do. Let's get it in on time so that you can become a registered voter and you can cast your vote in the next election, because it is your right. It is your right. You can elect the right people. You can have those people represent your interest, and you can help make America what it is supposed to do. Hey, thanks for listening. I hope I've encouraged you to get out there and vote, and I hope you have a great evening. Thank you.